wonderful humans of the internet. Today, I'm going to explain to you why pretending like your hands got chopped off will improve your art, and how it improved mine. Let me explain through the story. But first, let me take my hoodie off because I'm getting real hot. Alright, so once upon a time, I had an art teacher, and the first day she started teaching me, she said, I want you to draw some lines and some circles, but don't use your fingers or your hand. And I was like, what? And she was like, don't use your fingers or your hand, only use your arm. And I was like, okay. So I did it. And my lines and my circles looked like crap. But I kept doing it over and over and over again, essentially drawing like my hand got chopped off. And guess what? My art got a lot better. Now, you might be thinking, what are you even talking about? What do you even mean by drawing without using your hand? That sounds way too crazy, way too hard. But I promise, if you do these exercises I'm about to teach you in this video, your art will get a lot better.
Alright, so I brought my desk over here just to spruce up the scenery a bit so I don't bore you to tears. And I've got my notebook so I don't forget to say anything because I have the memory of a fish. But anyways, let me explain what I mean by drawing without using your hand. This is what it looks like to draw with your hand. And that's what a lot of beginners do. And the reason why it's problematic is because your wrist doesn't have a lot of movement. You can draw a line that's like this big if you just use your wrist. And it's hard to draw confidently, quickly, efficiently when you're just using your wrist. And your lines often start looking real hairy and start making your drawing look like it has hair growing in weird places, and nobody wants to see that. So, drawing without using your hand looks like this. Basically, it just means drawing less with your wrist and your fingers and more with your whole arm. The goal here is to have so much control in your arm that you could get to the point where if you took some tape and taped your pencil, actually, let me get some tape. If you took tape and taped your pencil to your wrist, just like that, you would still be able to draw. Comment down below if you ever want to see me do a drawing just like this. I will do it, and it will be amazing. So, the reason why learning to have this sort of control is good and will improve your art is because you'll be able to control what you're actually drawing more and be able to be more confident in your lines. You know, we've all been there when you're trying to draw a line or something like this, and it turns out looking like this. And you're like, that is not what I wanted. If you do these exercises I'm about to teach you, you will be able to get to the point where your mind and your arm and your hand will all be one. Now, you all saw the thumbnail. This is a 3-year difference between my drawings. And because I practiced having control in my arm and using my wrist and my fingers less, I was able to be more confident in my drawing and improve my art. Quick disclaimer though, that is not the only thing that I did to improve. I'll make videos on the other things that I did to improve later, but this definitely was a big one. Also, I just want to say, when I say moving your whole arm and stop using your hand, I don't mean completely stop using your hand and never ever draw with your fingers or your hand and just always draw like this. There are situations where it is better to use your wrist a little bit more if you're doing tiny little shading or something like that. But overall, learning to control your arm better will improve your art. Now let's jump into these exercises that you can start doing right now to help improve your art. And really quickly, something that's going to make these exercises easier is going to be resting your hand on the paper while you're first learning how to do these exercises. Eventually, if you can get to the point where you can not draw with your hand on the paper, then so many kudos to you. But just remember to put your hand on the paper at first. It will help. Alright, so the first exercise I would recommend starting out with is just simply doing some lines. You don't want to try to get them too perfect, because if you're too stressed about making a perfectly straight line, it's not going to be perfect. So what you got to do is, again, just using your arm and not really using your fingers to draw this line. Just draw a line across the paper. Try to be really confident with it. Just draw quickly, even if it doesn't come out right. You will get better at this the more you do it. And once you feel like you have the movement of drawing the line down, then try drawing them in different directions. Draw them in every direction you can think of. And again, don't stress too much about getting the perfect line. Just try to be confident with your line. Be confidently bad, even if your line just turns out looking all wobbly. Also, make sure when you're drawing these lines that you're not pressing too hard, because when you start pressing really hard to draw a line, it does make it harder when you are practicing. And feel free to just mess around with the length, the direction, and all of that of the lines. You just want to practice as many different kinds of lines as you can. Just start out with straight lines. We'll move on to other kinds of lines later. Then I know you're gonna hate me, but circles. You gotta do circles. And this is mostly just to practice the pencil control and less to actually practice drawing a perfect circle. And what you're going to want to do is just move your arm around the paper in a circular movement. Don't put your pencil down yet. And once you feel like you've got a good circular movement going on, start putting your pencil down. And just go around 3 or 4 times. Don't worry too much about getting it perfect. Again, this is just practice. This is a good exercise if you actually do want to learn how to draw perfect circles, but it also really helps with your hand and eye coordination. And again, just mess around with doing different size circles, because you want to be able to get to the point where you can do any size you want. And with the circles, I would also recommend doing what I like to call stirring the pot, where you draw a circle, then you just keep going around and around and around, and it almost feels like you are stirring a pot, doing that circular motion, and you just keep going around the same circle. This helps you practice staying on track, and it's honestly kind of relaxing after a while. Just don't stress about getting the circle too perfect, because then it won't be relaxing. Alright, so the next exercise that you can do is figure eights. Now what I like to do with these is I'll do the stirring the pot sort of a thing again, except it kind of feels like you're rocking a cradle or something, because you just keep going around and around. And again, just vary the sizes, vary how short and fat, and you can make some that are super big if you want, or super small. Again, just going around the same shape over and over again really helps with your pencil control and your hand and eye coordination. So after you've done some figure eights, you can do some wavy lines, and these can be really tricky to learn how to get them to be even. But after you've practiced doing straight lines and figure eights and circles, this should come a little bit easier. And again, what I like to do with this is just vary the lengths, vary how little it is, how big the loops are. And again, don't stress too much about getting it perfect. This is just practice. Just do it over and over and over again, and it will get easier. And something that's helpful for me when I'm doing little curvy lines is just kind of think in my head, up, down, up, down, up, down, and just move your arm up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and try to keep the up and the down the same length. Okay, so lastly, this is probably my favorite exercise, but don't do it until you feel like you can do the other ones, because this will be a little bit trickier. But for the last one, basically, you just draw a bunch of straight lines in weird ways and make weird 3D forms. They don't have to be 3D necessarily if you don't really know how to draw 3D forms yet. You can use a little bit of your imagination here. You're not making a work of art, but you are just practicing connecting lines and creating objects. This can literally be whatever the heck you want it to be, so don't stress about it. Just have fun with drawing weird lines all over the place. I'm pretty sure sometimes people are like, oh, I want to see your sketchbook, and I'll be like, no, you don't. But then I show them, and they see my pencil control exercises, and they're like, I thought you were good at art. So these exercises do look pretty crazy, but they will help and they're super fun once you get the hang of it. Then next, do ovals. Again, just vary the size, the shape. You can do the stirring the pot. Again, just going around the same oval over and over again. Just get into the rhythm of going in the shape. And then you can start doing the same thing you did with the lines, except add ovals, add circles, add curvy lines. Just create whatever the heck you want, whatever weird shapes you want, using curvy lines, ovals, circles, straight lines. And then once you've drawn those weird shapes, it's good to do the same thing where you're going around the lines over and over again, so you're practicing making your brain draw in a specific place. Don't stress about it too much. I mean, you can see I'm not perfect at getting my lines to line up exactly right. But doing this, drawing over the things you've already drawn, is really helpful, again, with the pencil control and the hand and eye coordination. Now, when you start doing these exercises and you start practicing, it's not going to be easy. It is hard to train your arm to do something it is not used to doing. But if you stick with it, I promise it will be worth it and your art will get better. It's not an immediate result sort of thing though, so don't give up if it's hard at first. Stick with it. Okay, let's get rid of this. Alright, that is all for this video. Thank you very much if you made it all the way to the end of this. Comment down below if you found this helpful in any way, shape, or form. I would love to hear, honestly. I read every single comment. Also, if you want to be involved with any of the behind the scenes making of these videos, then go give me a follow on Instagram at the redheaded Rapunzel. Promise there's some quality content. Also, I feel like at this point in the video I should ask you to subscribe, but I seriously doubt me asking is going to affect your decision at all. But I do have tons of great content coming, so come back at some point if you want to see that. And that is all for this video. So goodbye.